on set. Communications advisor is here with us, Dr. Barak Muluka, strategic communications advisor, as well as, professor of history, Professor Macharia Munene is here with us. And of course, we get to the conversation. Briefly, let's listen in to what has played out with Martha Karua this morning or today. And then we come back, get their brains on what this means, especially when we're looking at the international integration, or perhaps the East African integration, to be precise.
The great Mwalimu Nyerere, who welcomed all people, the oppressed of Africa, this is not what he must have envisaged, that we can be detained here. The common thread among us, we are guests of East Africa Law Society, and there is fear in this government of our dear Mama Suluhu about people who may be interested in the politically motivated cases against Tundu Lissu. Aluta continua. Aluta continua.
All right, gentlemen, I know you are privy to what happened. Of course, Honorable Martha Karua detained at Julius Nyerere Airport after 3 hours of interrogation. And of course, the question this evening then would be what really is happening with the East African community. Perhaps this is not the first time that Martha Karua is experiencing this kind of animosity. Prof, you are a professor of international relations, and we need to understand just what could be happening with East Africa. Is it Martha Karua, the persona of Martha Karua, or there's a problem with East Africa?
There is a serious problem in East Africa, particularly the East African community, which is increasingly becoming a myth rather than reality. There is that understanding that there's free movement
right.
of people in East Africa. We even have something called East African passport that in theory should be able to go anywhere. In reality, that is not the case.
Right.
Even from the days of Nyerere and Jomo Kenyatta, there were still some frictions. In Tanzania, they tended to be suspicious of Kenya in everything. And depending on who you listen to, the Tanzania will say, well, Kenya washuke, ajifunze kushuka. Stop being up there. So there is that friction. Now, the further there is an election coming
right.
in Tanzania, and the oppositional candidate, I don't know how much popularity he's gaining, but he's not at the bottom of popularity.
Recently, they have been denied the chance to participate in the election. I don't know how far they are with that.
I think the matter is being contested. And I think Martha and her colleagues were going there as part of the observer and assistance to being an opposition. They're opposition people. And the government of Tanzania, Samia Suluhu, is not very amused by people coming to support the people they want locked up, which restricts the free movements and the very idea of freedom and democracy. When you listen to some of these things, sounds like Kanu some years ago. You are thought to be thinking in a different way, and you find yourself in trouble for being said that you are thinking.
Right.
And it's not a very good picture for Suluhu. When she came to power, there was a lot of hope and anticipation that she's the right person.
Right.
And she even joked about her having a Suluhu.
Right. Solution to the problems.
Yes, it looks as if now the Suluhu has disappeared. And these are not good indicators. And it's just one symbol or symptom of things going wrong.
Okay.
Not just in Tanzania,
but across the East African community. Well, banning opposition leader Tundu Lissu was banned from participating in the elections upon being or having allegations, or perhaps was charged with treason the other day. Dr. Barak, what is happening? Is it painting a bad picture of what East African community is all about, or perhaps there is some valid reason as to why sometimes these leaders are going to be hard and tough, because first we witnessed what we witnessed with Kizza Besigye, then Tundu Lissu, you know, it's been on and off for the longest of time, and now there's Martha Karua from this particular end, and there's so many other leaders that sometimes when you cross over to the other side, there's trouble, perhaps to show a situation where maybe one president is working on behalf of the other president, or what exactly?
I think there are two things here which find a point of convergence, but which we need to isolate nonetheless. One of them is about democracy, and democracy not just being about elections, but governance, about opportunities, about freedoms generally, which are enjoyed by citizens. And in our context here in East Africa, we flatter ourselves with the belief that we are now a community,
right,
that we have picked up the pieces from where we broke and scattered them in 1977,
right,
when the community eventually collapsed. It had been suffering attrition for quite some time, starting from around 1965. But in 1977, it eventually collapsed, and the common services that we shared, generally now some went back to each country, the railways, the postal services, the telecommunications,
right,
the court system, and many other things. There's that democracy, the participation, the Tundu Lissus, the Chademas, the Besigyes, the Bobi Wines, and the rest, the right to participate. And on the one hand, and on the other hand is just that movement of people, including those who may not be even politically inclined.
right.
I have recently been in Dar es Salaam about 2-3 weeks ago, and when you get to the airport, immigration in Dar es Salaam, you start wondering whether the East African passport means
Counts.
anything.
Okay.
You start wondering whether the East African anthem means anything. If you come to Nairobi from anywhere in the world, you will find that there is a desk. In fact, there are several immigration desks,
right,
for East African citizens, and they enjoy expedited attention and service. In Dar es Salaam, you are all lumped together, and you are taken through some very thorough quizzing process. It's quite easy to be turned away. They want to know where you are going in that country. They want to know where you are staying. They want to know who has invited you. They sometimes even want to see whether you have a letter of invitation. This is within the East African community. Never mind that we have got Article 104 of the East African Community Treaty, which provides for freedom of movement of the peoples of the East African community. We are citizens. Look, if I live here now and I go to Europe, I get into Europe, say through Frankfurt, I immediately land in the European Union, and nobody is going to ask me in Europe if I want to go to Switzerland, if I want to go to France. They're not going to ask me, why have you come here? Who has invited you? Where are you staying? And imagine I've come all the way from East Africa.
Okay.
But to just go across the border,
it's a big deal.
In Tanzania is a very big deal. So that's one thing. And the other one, of course, as we have said, is the democratic practice. It is lacking. Our states are dictatorial, and it's going to take a very long time before we can enjoy true democracy in East Africa.
We want to get to the bottom of this and perhaps briefly just get to understand what could be the reason. Is it what Prof says, that Wakenya wako juu sana? I would assume that that was true some time back, but we have seen just how tremendously, you know, Tanzania has grown. Same applies to Uganda and many other East African, you know, countries. Why is it that then there's still this feeling of, you know, superiority and, you know, others feeling like they are inferior? What really is happening. So allow us to take a quick short break, gentlemen, and then we come back on that very note.